What is up, people? Jean Carlos here with the Total Body Training Podcast. And today, this is a conversation we're going to be having. Today's conversation is going to be about, holy smokes, I'm looking through my notes. Comparing yourself to other people in the gym. This can be super duper poisonous. So we're going to talk about it right now. I see this all the time because I'm a gym owner, and sometimes I get people who come in and it's their first time at Total Body Training. And, and first of all, this is a conversation that's mostly for beginners because it's something that tends to happen to them more. And it's definitely something that happened to me. So we're going to get into it in just a few seconds. Today's episode is brought to you by protein, protein of any kind. My personal favorite kind of protein is pork. It's not the leanest kind of protein, but I fucking love it. I love it, and I wish I could eat it all the time. That being said, what I want to know is if anybody knows a butcher, or if you know someone who can tell me if you can get 90% lean ground pork or some kind of cut. Because right now that's 90% lean from the pig. And puerco, as we say in Spanish. Right now, I'm on a cut. I am dieting so I can show more definition, and I can't eat pork the way I like to or the way that I really want to. Right now, I haven't had it in weeks, and I'm craving it. So if somebody can find that out for me, please let me know. Today's episode is brought to you by pork. You shouldn't eat it all the time, but if you can find it 90% lean, then why the hell not? So we're going to jump into it. As I was saying, comparing yourself to other people in the gym. This conversation is mostly for beginners or people who are struggling a little bit maybe with confidence or feeling comfortable when you're in the gimnasio, when you're in the gym. If you are out of shape, there's a good possibility that you don't like going to the gym. And I can relate because when I first started lifting and when I first started working out and trying to take better care of myself, I hated it. Not only that, but you probably think that gym culture is kind of corny. You see people on Facebook and Instagram posting photos of themselves like, hey, or whatever, and you're just like, you know what? That ain't my thing. I'm just not into that. I am not the fit kind of person. I'm not a workout kind of person. I understand. I have definitely been there. Growing up, I was more of the artsy fartsy person, hence why I'm wearing these hipster glasses right now. I get it. Like I totally understand. And then something might happen. So maybe you're the kind of person who's always like, fuck that workout shit. And, I don't care about that. I don't care about the fitness Instagram. Why do people always have to take photos of their healthy food and stuff like that, right? Why do they? Why do they always take photos of their healthy foods? Anyways, something comes up for you, non-fitness person, and what happens is maybe you find out, hell, I am really out of shape. So you're going to take a family photo. It's Christmas or a birthday or something like that. You go to take a family photo and everybody's like, hey, Cheryl, get in the photo. Come over here. And you're like, okay. And then you hop in the photo and then the photo comes back. It gets placed on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, Twitter, everywhere. And you look at yourself and you're like, shit, I am definitely gaining some weight. Or man, I look out of shape. Or maybe that's one scenario. Maybe you go to the store to buy clothing for the bathing suit season and you feel uncomfortable in everything that you try on. Every little outfit every little bathing suit doesn't feel right. You've got a gut, things like that. This isn't, by the way, I'm not trying to body shame in this process. I'm just trying to kind of share with you some of the sentiments or the feelings that I have had when I have been severely out of shape or things that people tell me when they come into Total Body Training. And that right there is your red flag. You think, damn it, I am really out of shape. I need to do something about this. So you decide that you're going to start working out and you go to the gym, you get a gym membership maybe, or you go to some kind of group fitness class and maybe you've never worked out, not on purpose, unless it was like PE or recess or something like that. You've never really worked out. You've never been the workout kind of person. So all this is really foreign to you. And you walk into the gym and then there's the girl who's doing all the butt exercises over here and is in good shape. And there's the guy who's like grunting and making all this loud noise when he's working out. And you suddenly feel very, very out of place. You feel like, holy shit, I don't know if I'm this kind of person. I don't know if I can hang here. And in addition to that, you start comparing yourself to those people. So you start looking at people who are working out and doing things, and you start thinking, I don't know if I can, you start thinking things like, oh my God, I don't know if I could ever do that. I mean, I just don't think I can do that. I don't think I can work out that way. These are the thoughts that start going through your head. And that process, right, can be really unhealthy when you start to kind of compare yourself. Now, recognizing that you're really out of shape, and comparing yourself, like looking and being like, wow, that person's very in shape and I'm not, isn't necessarily detrimental. But if you have, any kind of self-consciousness about it, or you feel bad about it, or you feel like you should be in that same kind of shape, or that you should be in that same kind of health, then we've got an unrealistic expectation. And that's where comparing yourself to someone else can be super, super, super unhealthy. And I see it. I've seen it here at Total Body Training. This is not to call anybody out. This is just to kind of share a general sentiment so that I can help you all feel better about being beginners anywhere. I like to think that here we have a pretty chill kind of culture that's really open and inviting. And I think most people would say that. But when you are going at it on your own, it can be a little bit different. When you don't have a training facility or you don't have a good trainer, if you walk into a cycling class and everybody's hauling ass and you've never cycled, or you've never lifted weights and you walk into a weightlifting class, or you go anywhere to work out, you are going to inevitably feel like, man, I am severely out of shape. And you're going to compare yourself to other people. Now, what can we do in this process? All right. What I'm going to tell you is, first of all, don't worry. You aren't alone. That's the story of most people. Most people have to start somewhere. So cut yourself some slack. And there are a few things that you can do. All right. If you want to continue to maintain and stay in shape, there are a few processes or ways that this comparing yourself, the comparison game that happens can be so damn detrimental. And we're going to go over a few of them. So, and then from there, I'm going to tell you what I would recommend that you do. Now, the first thing that I see when people start comparing themselves to other people is this that's written in my notes here. Let me take a look. It's not me. All right. This is a big one. I'm not the workout kind. And I was already kind of talking about this. I'm not the kind of person who works out. I am not into that. I didn't enjoy playing sports when I was in high school. I didn't do any of that in college. My idea of physical activity is walking around from my office desk to to see my manager or something like that. Or my idea of working out is playing with the kids. Even though we're getting winded because we're out of shape, my idea of working out is just flipping through the channels on TV, right? Maybe it's something like that. Or gardening, one of these ideas that people have that they think is working out and taking physical care of yourself. That's getting into a different topic. Maybe I'll talk about that later on. The idea that like physical movement doesn't necessarily mean that you're in good health or that you're exercising. That's a tricky one. We'll talk about that later on. But for the purpose of this, you don't think you're the workout type. All right. And you aren't. So you aren't the kind of person who's been working out your entire life. You aren't the kind of person who is, played sports or anything like that. And, I understand that because I definitely wasn't. If you were to look back at me in high school, I was very overweight. I was very out of shape. There were a few things that I like to do, and they were all like alternative things. So I like to skateboard. Skateboarding is physical, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I was healthy. I'm glad that I did that because I wouldn't have done anything if I didn't do that. So I like to do that, and I like to dance, and I like to ballroom dance. And so those things kind of kept me in pretty good shape. I actually lost a considerable amount of weight when I started dancing because that we will burn some fat when you're dancing a lot for hours. But here's my point here. That thinking that you aren't the workout type is just really unhealthy. There really isn't necessarily, I mean, while you aren't the type, while you don't fit that Instagram model like identity and you weren't the kind of person who worked out in high school, hey, it's okay. Everybody needs to work out and move. That's what did. That's what we did. You know, when we were evolving, we were running around, picking shit up, moving things, hunting. I mean, everyone did that. You know, people weren't, you know, Abe Lincoln and all those people. And then, you know, like even before Abe Lincoln, you know, like Neanderthals, I don't know, all our early evolutionary people, when we were indigenous people that ran around and hunted and gathered and things like that. I know I just threw a lot at you, but I am just going off the cuff. We weren't, you know, sitting around and doing squats for 3 sets of 10, and we weren't doing sit-ups for 12, and then we weren't like intentionally being like, let's go run a marathon. Like, it wasn't like that. People just moved around. Now, people played games. There's lots of historical data that suggests that people played games and people played sports. But, you know, there wasn't really a workout type. People just moved. And if you look at indigenous people, like say in like New Guinea, who are, you know, in the middle of nowhere, they move around, they do shit. The women and the men do shit. And, you know, they're in pretty decent health from what I know. I've never interviewed a New Guinean, but I would say that they're probably in decent health. And, you know, I would also say, and I'm not an expert here, so somebody can correct me down in the comment section below, please. But chances are they're doing pretty good because they're moving around and we just aren't moving enough. So maybe what we need to do is reframe this idea of like what a fit person is. Maybe you don't have to think of yourself as the athlete or the track star or the weightlifter. Maybe what you should do if you're struggling with thinking that you're not the weightlifting kind is that you should start to think of yourself as the I need to get in shape kind. Right? Just to be blunt. Maybe the idea here is that you just need to get in better health, not worry about, you know, the identity part of it or anything like that. Because chances are that when you're in the gym, no one gives a shit. I'm serious. No one's really looking at you for inspiration or worrying about what you're doing. Like the chick who's over there working out and the guy who's lifting and stuff like that, they're not worrying. But if you feel like you're in an environment where someone is, right? Maybe you're around people who are judgmental. There are gyms where that happens. That's true. Then go somewhere else. Find somewhere where you feel comfortable and you feel confident if you feel like people are putting you down or making you feel uncomfortable. And you know, that's what I would recommend. I can see where intimidation would be true. For a lot of situations, though, I don't think that people really are giving too much of a shit about what you're doing. So what I'm saying is reframe the conversation, the thoughts that you have about working out and your identity of being a person who doesn't work out and, you know, just work out anyways, and think of yourself as a beginner. Cut yourself some slack and say, hey, I'm a beginner. I am not the workout type, and that's a-okay. I just need to be the kind of person who is the get fit because I've been out of shape type, right? I know it sounds weird because that's not a category, but we can make it one. So that's where I would start if you're struggling with feeling that way. All right. Number 2, sometimes people, when they start comparing themselves to other people in the gym or the skinny chick or the fit dude on Instagram or Facebook or what have you, they go into the hater route. And that is super unhealthy. There's a lot of ego involved there and a lot of self-consciousness, really. When you start going that route. So what is the hater route? The hater route is, man, she must starve herself. You know, if she's so fit, you know, if she's so skinny, look at her, she must be dying, right? So people kind of go in this other route, this other extreme of putting somebody down because they, I don't know, like choose to work out or they choose to eat broccoli or they choose to eat, you know, a salad with, you know, a nice piece of bread instead of plowing down Bill Miller's or Whataburger or just like focusing on actually taking care of yourself. That does happen. Let me pause for a second. I know that in the fitness industry, there are issues where people are self-obsessed. However, I would say that the far minority of people fall into that category. The majority of people who are gym goers and are just trying to eat healthy are just taking good care of themselves, and they're just trying to be better versions of themselves and be healthier, right? The far minority of people are struggling with something like exercise bulimia or some kind of exercise problem. Now, that doesn't say that people don't have body image issues, which is a separate conversation that we'll have at some point. But for the purpose of this right now, what I'm saying is that there are people who just hate, and in that hating process, they're never able to grow and develop. So they'll go into the gym and they'll see a guy who's in really good shape. Maybe the guy has really good arms, he has good abs, and a dude will be like, motherfucker's doing steroids. right? He could be doing steroids. That's a possibility. Some people do steroids, and it's not uncommon, especially in bodybuilding, for that to be the case. But maybe he's just been working out like for months and he really wants to get nicer arms, right? Maybe you're being kind of just a little bit of a jerk by assuming that about that person without having any reason, right? I know I'm being real and I'm being real blunt, but that's definitely been the case, at least in my life, where I've seen that people say, oh, like that fit girl must be, anorexic for wanting to work out. And, people will hate on someone without really having any knowledge or without even talking to the person or without even communicating with the person, right? So just realize that if you're putting people down when you go to the gym, you are doing this because you more than likely are struggling a little bit with your own self. And, just try being a little bit more humble about your body and about other people's bodies. It doesn't reflect well on you when you act that way, and neither does it let you frame your fitness life or your fitness life, your fitness career now in the proper way, right? Because like if you're hating on the people who are doing the thing that you are ideally striving to do, then how are you going to get into the category, or how are you going to find yourself doing the thing that they're doing? Do you understand? Like if you're hating the thing that gets you in shape and you're vocalizing it and putting other people down, then why would you become that? Not that you need to be the fit chick who takes Instagram photos and takes fit photos of her food. Not that you need to be the fit dude who oils himself up, shaves everything, and takes photos of himself that way and hops on a competitor stage. Not any of that. Just how are you going to put those people down and put down the whole fitness thing and be a hater how are you going to do that and simultaneously, I should say, take care of yourself? Chances are you won't. Okay? Chances are you won't. Now, I'm not a psychologist or a therapist. Studied a little bit of behavioral psychology and stuff like that, social psychology. I've read a lot of books. This is my opinion. Just want to state that. I just don't think you can do that at the same time, that you can hate on people for wanting to improve themselves, right? And improve yourself in the same area. All right. So what I'd recommend is that you just don't do that. All right. When you catch yourself, saying, oh, look at her, what a bitch. Or, like you're a dude and you're like, man, he's fucking doing steroids. Fuck him. He must have all his ego, whatever. You just kind of don't do it. Don't do it. It doesn't reflect well on you. All right. So that's the second one on there. That's my second point. All right. And then there is I would say, avoidance or self-sabotaging that occurs. And let me see what I meant by that. Oh, okay. So that would be when you start comparing yourself to others in the gym and you start looking around and you think like, I'm not the fit type. You say, my body just doesn't work that way. I don't have the kind of genes that allow me to work out. I'm not genetically that kind of way. And in the process of saying that, you self-sabotage and you put yourself down. So it's almost like you become your own self-hater. Yeah, I would say that. You're your own worst critic in that process. You think, I'm not the fitness type and my body's just not that way. I'm old. I'm getting older. This isn't really for me. Maybe I should do something else like knit or something. I'm just trying to think. One of my clients knits, not hating. I think that's awesome. Just throwing out something out there, right? Maybe you think that's not the kind of person that I am. I can't possibly do that. And right now, you can't. You're not that kind of person. You're not in shape. And that is a-okay. But hating on yourself, okay, isn't going to help anything. And that gets into something called a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And we'll talk about that for a second. I'm going to make a second video about this. But if you're self-sabotaging in the process of wanting to get in better shape, hey, Heron, just want to kind of wave at you. If you're self-sabotaging, I cannot do it. There we go. If you're self-sabotaging in the process of trying to get in shape or considering getting in shape, this is what I would recommend. You probably are in a situation where you have a fixed mindset. So you believe that there are certain skills that are inherent to people. So you think fit people are natural. There are definitely people with a slight genetic advantage, or maybe some people have more of a genetic advantage. But I would dare to say that the majority of people who are good at anything in life, or good at sports, or good at fitness, have something called a growth mindset. And that means that person worked really dang hard to get where they're at. All right. So, that person got up a little bit earlier to work out when they were younger. That person really pushed themselves when they saw something was difficult. That person wasn't genetically or, gifted at something. They just put their effort into it. Right. And they worked hard. And a good example of this is Michael Jordan. Okay. Michael Jordan was not the best basketball player growing up. Can you believe that? He's considered to be one of the best basketball players in history, but he was actually pretty shitty because he didn't get accepted onto his elementary school, or maybe I believe it was his high school team, basketball team. I believe it was his high school team. You can fact check me on that. I know that he didn't get on the team. I can't remember which one. If you want to leave those down in the comments section below, please leave those down there. But he didn't get on because he wasn't good enough at that time. So he tried out and they turned him down and he went home. Poor Michael Jordan. He went home, MJ, and, he told his mom about what had happened and how heartbroken he was about it. His mom was like, hey, if you want to do this workout, if you want to do this basketball thing, you're going to need to try harder than the other kids. You believe that? Let me say that again. You're going to need to try harder because he wasn't naturally good at it. So he would get up every day and he would get up before school. Can you imagine this? A high schooler or a young student would get up earlier, okay, to do work, to work on the thing he wants to do. He would get up and he would practice basketball early in the morning and then go to school. And that kind of growth mindset is what allowed him to eventually become who he is right now, the best basketball player ever. In fact, when he went in and he tried out for the NBA, he didn't get accepted by, I believe it was 2 teams. He got rejected by 2 teams before getting accepted to play finally for the NBA, right? And if Michael Jordan had a fixed mindset, if he had thought, people who play basketball are naturally good at it, people who do sports are naturally good at it, they're naturally talented, they have genetic advantages, that means that I can't do it, then we wouldn't have a basketball player of all time as Michael Jordan. We wouldn't have that, okay? It just wouldn't be the case. So I would say that one of the most important things that we can do is we can realize that we need to have a growth mindset and we can need to start. And with that being said, this will end the self-sabotaging conversation that we have about ourselves. If we have this thought in our head that we can't do it because we just aren't the kind of person who's gifted, and we go through the narrative of putting ourselves down, we will not be able to grow. So what we need instead is a growth mindset. We need some level of humility in that process. We need to just be like, hey, right now, I am not where I want to be. I want to be in better shape. I want to be able to walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded. I want to be able to jog a mile, right? That in under, in like, 12 minutes without stopping, right? Whatever little stepping stone, you need to go ahead and say, like, set aside something that you want to achieve, and then realize it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. And if you have a growth mindset and you don't self-sabotage yourself, you will be more likely to achieve your goal. My recommendation for you, if you're a beginner, is I know you're going to look around and you're going to see how other people are doing in the gym. I think that's natural. I think it's natural to look around and wonder how someone got into the place that they're at. And I think it's also okay to want what someone else has, want to be in good shape, want to be in good health, as long as it's not unrealistic. All right. There's nothing wrong with wanting it. As long as it's not outside of what you can have genetically, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting it. So for example, like if I wanted to be a 6'3" basketball player, that's not going to happen. I'm not 6'3". And if I obsess about that and I worry about that and I compare myself to other people, I'm not going to have it. All right. That's just not going to happen. That's unhealthy. Or if you're a woman and you want hips like Beyonce, but you have a very thin waist, okay? You're just built thin. Now you can put on some glute muscle, you can put on some muscles on your thighs, your quads, your hamstrings, you can get some quad dams, you can do all that. However, to want something that's very, very different than the body type that you are naturally given with your body is unhealthy. So that's where like you definitely shouldn't compare yourself. But what you can do is you can say, settle. So you can just go ahead and go with, okay, like maybe I can't have all this stuff. Hold on for a second. Okay. Sorry about that. What I was saying is that maybe you feel like, sorry, I'm getting bombarded over here on the podcast here. Messages. I need to turn off my text messages. But what I was saying was, if you feel like where I lost my train of thought here. Just a second. You shouldn't want something that's unrealistic when you're comparing yourself. But if you see that someone, but what you can do is you can say, oh, well, that tall dude who shoots hoops, I can get good at shooting hoops for my height and, make amends with the fact that I'm not 6'3" and I can get better at it. Or that girl who wants that Beyonce body, she can say, you know what? I want abs that are tighter. I want a midsection that's tighter. I want legs that are nicer, a butt that's nicer for my frame. Then you can have that. That's where comparing yourself or admiring someone or looking up to somebody isn't unhealthy, as long as you're not wanting something that you can't have. And as long as it isn't putting you down, I don't really see the problem. But what you need to do is keep that in perspective and say, this is going to take me time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that's going to happen quickly. For me to expect that it's going to happen quickly overnight, even in the next few weeks, especially if I'm really out of shape, is really just a severe lack of you understanding how it works, how the whole process of getting in shape and getting fit and taking better care of yourself works. It takes time. Michael Jordan didn't become Michael Jordan overnight. He started by getting up early and working really hard to get there. And I think if we were to look at a lot of people's stories, a lot of people have worked really hard to achieve that goal that they really want. So when you're in the gym, the next time that you go there, if you compare yourself to other people who are in there, remember that they worked really hard to get where they're at, and you can work really hard to get there or to get somewhere too. All right. Honor what you've got right now. Be okay with that and realize that it's going to be a process. It's going to take time. Don't put yourself down in the process of comparing yourself to other people, because that will just lead to you being very unhealthy and unhappy with your own personal progress. All right, people, thank you so much for tuning in to the Total Body Training Podcast today. This is the end of this episode. This will be up on Anchor and multiple platforms soon. I'm kind of, if you notice, trying to go this more candid route where I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head and live streaming. It's something that I really want to get at. And, typically in the past, like I've scripted a lot of things. So I'm just trying to do something a little bit different with how I approach talking to you all, just being more myself and talking off the top of my head about these things. All right, people. So I hope you enjoyed everything. Until next time, peace.